Well, hello and thank you for joining me for another iTWire video with top international IT executives. Today I have with me Jennifer Kyriakakis, the founder and VP of Marketing at Matrixx, to the program.
Hi, Alex. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Now, it's also International Women's Day today. We'll get to that in a little bit later on in the interview, but for those who don't know, can you please briefly explain what products and services that Matrixx Software offers to the world's telecommunications companies?
Yeah, so Matrixx offers a digital commerce solution for operators, and it's basically a real-time solution that enables them to offer all of their products and services and full customer service through the different various digital channels that operators are moving to. So what types of products am I going to roll out? How am I going to price them? How am I going to package them and sell them to my customers? And then how am I going to support my customers as they use those products? And how am I going to figure out what my customers want to use next?
Sure, and I mean, there's things like billing software and stuff. We'll talk about some of that later on in the context of what you've been doing with Telstra. But with the name of the company, I mean, I don't know if I'm the only one, but I like to make allusions to the Matrix movies, to moments from the Matrix movies. Whenever I write articles about Matrixx Software, was the naming of your Matrix influenced by the movies, which had wired and wireless telecommunications as one of its central themes, or was it something else?
So we like to tag on to the movie because obviously the movie was very much about the future and where the world might go. The genesis of the name is actually tied more to one of our patented technologies. So the difference between Matrixx and a lot of other companies out there is that we have a completely different technology core and a different technology stack that we developed from scratch, and it's all patented. And one of those patents actually uses matrices of algebraic equations, and so that's where the term matrix actually comes from.
Right. Well, good. Now, since the movie aired with its sliding Nokia banana phone, we've moved towards a world of amazingly advanced smartphones and super fast 4G networks with even faster 5G networks promised. How do you see consumer expectations having changed and evolved since the launch of the smartphone? And I mean, even on the topic of the smartphone, I mean, there were smartphones before the iPhone in the early 2000s. So I mean, do you sort of see the which is sort of a separate question? Do you see the iPhone as being that true smartphone, or have we been sort of moving that in that direction since the 2000s when we had all manner of amazing devices?
I think it's a mix. It's a mix of the smartphone and the application developers. Those two pieces together, right? Because if you think about one example we use a lot is around Uber, right? I do everything that I do with Uber. I do it through the application. I sign up for the service. I ask for service. I give feedback. I ask for credit if I have a complaint. I personalize what kind of car I want. Everything you do is self-directed. So customers now expect to be able to do everything themselves through the phone. They expect to be able to personalize it, and they expect to be able to get it instantly, right? And Uber has to tell me at any given time where every car is, what kind of car it is, how close it is to me. Is it an SUV? Is it an Uber X car? Does it have a car seat? And when I pick that car, it has to tell me, when I ask for service, what the driver's name is, what the license plate is, exactly when it's going to be there. So there's all of this information and all of these things that you should be able to do through the phone instantly, no matter where you are. It should always work, and that's how the consumer experience has changed, and that's what people expect now. And that is a combination of, yes, the smartphone, but then what a lot of these clever digital companies and app developers decided to do with how they could push information through that digital channel to create a service.
Yeah. I mean, all of the sensors and GPS and fast broadband and apps have delivered the rich interaction that wouldn't exist if a smartphone didn't have apps. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, given that you work with some of the world's biggest telcos, including Telstra in Australia, do you think that operators can realistically replicate the kind of digital service that we're seeing with OTT or over-the-top players? And given that some of the telcos have traditionally been dumb pipes, even though some have wanted to become smart pipes, I say this noting that Telstra has been offering things like mobile Foxtel for years, even during the feature phone days. But when people think of OTT or over-the-top video today, they most likely think of Netflix, not their telco, which may have been providing OTT video for years.
I think what we have to remember when we talk about the telco is that their job is infinitely harder, because if you look at a lot of these digital players, I was talking about Uber. Uber delivers 1 million rides a day globally. If you're talking about, other digital players, they're doing, tens of millions of services a day globally. When you look at the telco, the difference is they own and run the network, right? Mm-hmm. So to get that experience on the same level, they're looking at infinitely more customer interactions every day than any of these other digital players are. So their problem is a lot bigger and a lot harder to solve and a lot more complex. And that's why it's difficult for them to offer the same experience through the digital channel. We absolutely think they can get there. That's part of what we designed our solution to do. But they can't get there with a lot of the IT infrastructure that they're currently using. They have to look at new technology and new infrastructure and really a different speed of IT and operations, and able to enable that same type of experience through the digital channel that somebody like a Netflix can offer.
Sure. And on the topic of Telstra, what have been some of the other benefits of transitioning to digital for telcos like Telstra? I mean, I know that you have figures showing a 5% increase in Telstra customer data spending over the last 6 months following their move to provide more choice and visibility over customer usage, which was a feature that your software was able to provide them, and which many telcos still haven't been able to replicate, unless they come to somebody like you to get that same technology.
Yeah, so when you think about it, when you open up doing business through digital channels, you're essentially opening up your IT operations to your customer, right? So everything you present to them that you used to be able to hide behind the black boxes and hide until you presented them a bill, you can't hide that anymore. You have to show that to them whenever they want to see it through an app. And so by Telstra doing that, they've made all of their customers' information very transparent, how much they're spending on data. They've actually improved not only their ARPU, but they've improved that overall interaction with their customer. And what they actually experienced was, when customers had that visibility, because they got the visibility correct, because they got the information correct, that actually lessened the burden on the call center of people calling in and complaining about data services, or complaining that they spent too much. So they actually saw call center traffic drop by about 40% around questions of data consumption and data spending. And if you track, their progress over time, you'll see that their NPS is constantly rising as well, because the more precise information and transparency that they're giving to their customers, the better and happier their customers are.
Yeah, a 48-hour delay is not as good as having real-time information.
Right.
So clearly a lot of this revolves around digital. So, there's a lot of talk about the position of Chief Digital Officer. What is this position, and why has the role been created by so many businesses?
So the Chief Digital Officer essentially has to not only set the digital vision for the company, but they have to be somebody who's capable of affecting change across organizations that were for a long time run more like government agencies, right? So that's why you see these chief digital officers being put in place. They're typically being brought in from outside the telco industry, because they're going to be the rule breaker, and they're going to be the person that people are angry at, really, that people are going to fight against, but they have to be willing to affect that change throughout the organization, and they have to be able to put the right KPIs in place to show success, to be able to affect that change, all the way through IT networks and operations. And that's one thing that, Telstra did quite successfully is immediately as their digital customer interactions started to rise, they had very strong results, coming off the back of that they can use to then further that program and continue the evolution across the organization.
Now, with all the talk of 5G networks and the massive capabilities or capacities to deliver much faster wireless broadband speeds to much larger numbers of people at the same time, how else do you think the mobile experience will have evolved and changed for consumers over the next 5 to 10 years? I mean, in 10 years we'll have 6G, teleportation.
Well, yeah, you got to think about, are we all going to be essentially periscoping our lives, 100% of the time, right? And therefore, when my mom wants to tap in and watch me, she can tap in and watch me brush my teeth and get ready for bed if she wants to. But really, it sort of makes living your life online through video, whether that's whether that's people periscoping what they're doing or self-directed content or whatever you want to do. It's all going to be a world of video and a world of living online, really.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody wants to star in their own episode of Jenny Cam or The Truman Show. So
yeah, not people our age, but the next generation, they want to live life that way.
Well, that's right. Yeah, I mean, they seem to be Snapchatting everything every 5 seconds. I mean, they're periscoping by moments, which I think they think are erasable, but maybe not.
We all know that's not really true.
That's right. That's right. Now it's International Women's Day in Australia as we talk. It's Tuesday here. For you, it's still Monday, but tomorrow for a lot of the rest of the world, as from my point of view, it will be International Women's Day. So as the founder of and VP of marketing at Matrixx, you founded and are now part of a company that provides products and services to some of the world's greatest telcos. So, what were some of the barriers that you faced along the way in achieving this success?
Yeah, I actually think, and this is interesting, I would say when I started out 20 years ago, I actually think there were more women in the industry then than there are now, and there's actually statistics that support that the number of women in software and in telecommunications has been in decline for the past 10 years or so. And so I actually think it's now, looking around, there's less women today than there was when I first started. I didn't feel as that there were any challenges necessarily around being a woman in the industry when I first started, as there are more today, just not having enough female peers around to have sort of those peer conversations and those type of women's support groups within different organizations.
And why do you think that that's the case? Why aren't there more women today? You'd imagine there'd be double, but clearly not.
You'd imagine they'd be double. I think that we as different industries haven't done a good job of marketing technology as what the end game is, right? There's a lot of focus on technology for the technology itself versus the technology for what it enables and what the end product is going to be and what the consumer gets on the end. If you can attach what you're doing from a technology perspective to the outcome, whether it's an outcome for a consumer or whether it's a better outcome for the world, or whether, what is that direct impact on the world? I think we need to draw those dots better and tell that story better to attract more women into the industry. But I do think it is an industry where you do have to have a technical background. I run marketing now, but I started off with a much more technical role. I started off doing things like C programming. And so you have to have a technical background. So we do need to attract the women into technology, but then draw the story better around, here is what you are actually putting out into the world. Here's what here's how the end product benefits the world or benefits the consumer or benefits that industry.
Sure. I mean, there has been a lot of talk about getting both sexes involved in more STEM education, the science, technology, engineering and math in schools, and there's been a lot of this hour of code and a lot of other initiatives. Are there any initiatives that you've been involved in to try and help get more young men and women in schools today to really take this up and do more programming, do more startup type ideas? I mean, I was involved in something called Young Achievers Australia. It was trying to get young people involved in thinking about business. I mean, are you involved in anything yourself to try and accelerate that process?
I'm not involved right now. I would love to be. Starting a company and growing a company is it takes up most of my time, unfortunately, for now. But yeah, at some point in time, there's a lot of different groups in Silicon Valley, and there's a few groups going on that are specific to telco that I'd like to get involved in. So definitely on my priority list.
So what other messages would you like to share with women in business today, whether they're starting out or whether they've been there for a while?
I would just say, think about what gets you excited, right? Think about what gets you excited about different types of products, different types of services. What types of things do you want to be associated with, and then work backwards from there about, well, what's the technology behind it that makes that happen? Because when you think about it today, most industries are actually much more technology led than they were 15 years ago. Much more led by the mobile industry as well. The mobile industry now touches every single other industry there is. And so, if it's the makeup industry you're interested in, then how is that industry going to evolve over the next 5 years, and how are people going to use mobile applications? within that industry, and think about it from that perspective, and then find the mix of technology mixed with what you really love.
So 2 more questions before we finish. One is one I always like to ask people I'm interviewing, and that's to ask if you could please share the best advice or some great advice that you've received over the years to help you get you where you are today.
I guess probably some of the best advice I've ever received is it's always better to, well, I wouldn't say it's always better, but listen as much as you speak, right? Think about everybody in the room, what they're saying, what their motivations are, and try to understand the motivations behind what people are saying, as much as you do the speaking, as much as you do the setting the direction, because it's understanding everyone's different perspectives and motivations that will then better help you in helping set objectives for a team or for a company.
Yeah, as they say, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth.
Exactly.
So, do you have any final messages for iTWire viewers and readers, and for your current and future customers?
I don't know if I do, other than, you have to choose between the red pill and the blue pill. Which is it going to be?
That's it.
Are you going to do something different? Or are you going to go back to your old way of thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jennifer, look, thank you very much for being part of iTWire and our video series today. I hope you have a great International Women's Day tomorrow for you, and I hope that you can, inspire some not only customers but some women out there watching to go to the next level. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Hope so. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.